For the record, there are a couple of things I want to point out before I begin debating against some of the points you made. And the first one is that you listed no sources in your recent argument. So I have no idea whether certain facts are made up or exaggerated to prove your point, such as the amount of energy and food that goes into taking care of farm animals. Furthermore, I'd like to point out a couple of points which you conceded to me. Even though you mentioned certain issues such as the European farm research that may not be done on the mass level, you never really directly said that it could not be done in other countries. And I feel like that's conceding the point. You also never brought up any points that make scaling down a disadvantage. You may have debated certain things I said, but you never said that scaling down wouldn't solve anything I said. Furthermore, my definition of ethics comes from a dictionary, but you haven't cited um, any sources that say that your definition is the correct one. Yours is subjective, and although some people may agree with you, it's not generally agreed upon and therefore invalid. Speaking of ethics, I'd like to talk more about the ethics of freedom of choice, which I elaborated on before, but I'll elaborate on further since that hasn't really been debated against. One of the most universal rights to man is the right to choose. That's what really makes us different than other animals. And although certain points may seem logical that it doesn't matter about freedom of choice should come over everything else because there wouldn't be ethics without freedom of choice. If we weren't able to choose different actions, there wouldn't be right or wrong actions. So that should be really taken into consideration when talking about whether meat eating is a less ethical choice than vegetarianism. I'd also like to clarify my point about the research on European farms. What I believe can be done with that, since it is done in certain countries, it can be emulated across the world, which will be especially easy if we scale down and only use organic farms. The use of organic farms will allow for more research to be done on more humane ways to treat them. Also, you never made any argument against my economic reasonings for not completely cutting meat off the earth. Um, it's very dangerous to risk losing that many jobs at once. Um, it would. We already have an issue with the recession, and we've had a um, majority of a jobless recovery. To lose that many jobs and raise the unemployment rate would be catastrophic. Um, in closing, I feel like I made a lot of strong points for keeping meat eating as an option by just scaling it down. It holds the benefit of not ruining the economy and at the same time preserving the ethics of freedom of choice and treating the animals more humanely. Thank you for your time, and I really enjoyed this debate.